I think we should interpret the million principle in a broad sense. People not only enjoy their own activities that employ the higher faculties, they also relish seeing and hearing about extraordinary achievements. This is why watching performances of outstanding skill can be so joyful. The philosopher Alain de Botton once compared good buildings with good people. Good buildings, he says, have certain traits that we value in people. A building can be steadfast or beautiful. Buildings can thus embody human virtues or desirable attributes. I find de Botton's proposal very helpful in understanding what fascinates us about cities. There's a famous anecdote about King James II. When he saw St. Paul's Cathedral, he described it as awful and artificial. King James made no offense, though. In his days, the meaning of awful was awe-inspiring. Artificial meant skillfully achieved. I mention this here because I think that part of the pleasure of being in a city is to be reminded of the awe-inspiring nature of human capabilities, of the wonder of human greatness, to put it a bit cheesily. Like many people, I find New York and Paris particularly awful in King James's sense. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche had the somewhat curious idea that Europeans would lose their will to greatness as a consequence of the Christian cult of victimhood, which is epitomized by the crucifix. He believed that Europeans would finally lose their will to live, literally bored to death by their own banality. Nietzsche called this the great threat of European nihilism. Strange as this might sound, Nietzsche's narrative might contain some grains of truth. I shall pick just one. If we stick to the broad interpretation of the million principle, people not only enjoy the exercise of their own developed skills, but also admire perfection, excellence and greatness in other persons, and even in material things like buildings. It would be certainly overinflated to claim along Nietzschean lines that people lose their will to live in a grey and mediocre urban environment, but cities which have no room for grand projects are pretty dull places.